What is not a bullet you dodged, but a huge tactical nuke you dodged? My company was offering free medical checkups for everyone. An optional stool test was included. On a whim, I went for it. The stool test turned out positive for blood traces. The subsequent colonoscopy revealed a large benign 15 mm tumor that the doctor was somehow able to remove. He said that had I waited a few more months, it almost certainly would have turned malignant, and colonic resectioning would have been needed, along with chemotherapy. There was a girl I knew at high school who was friends with a lot of my friends, but I just felt she was off. She didn't do anything wrong, she just behaved strangely. My friends told me I should give her a chance, and I did, but I just didn't like her. After I left high school and grew up a bit, I felt bad because I thought maybe I'd been a high school bitch and should have given her more of a chance. A week after I graduated from college, she got busted for running a meth lab, and two people I had been friends with in high school came out saying they'd loaned her lots of money that they now can't get back. Sometimes you just know, I guess. We were both 15 at the time and went on 2 dates together, and on the second date she told me her reason for being single. Her last boyfriend just a week previous caught her poking holes in his condoms with a pen and dumped her on the spot. They were only dating for a month when she did this. Why? I asked, and her reply was that she's a Christian and does not believe in birth control. And above all else, it was her duty to become a mother for God. I nearly choked on my soda. The hypocrisy of her actions were oblivious to her. I took out my wallet and left a few notes on the table and just walked away with her starting to cry. Just today, I went walking in the woods. Got a weird, uncomfortable feeling and decided to turn around. Before I turned around, I took some photos of weird footprints. Turns out they were from a bear. I have only turned down a promotion and raise once. I made it through the interview process and received a contract offer. But the leader at the top of the organization was very clearly inconsiderate and condescending, and I was going to have to work frequently with her. I decided to walk away from the offer. When she followed up by sending me a scathing email, I knew I'd made the correct choice. The organization suffered years of toxicity with her at the helm, and I spared myself and my family a lot of stress and pain. Engaged at 21, married at 22, and divorced at 22. He turned out to be a monster. He was a master of disguise, and didn't show his true colors until the day after the wedding. I never grieved, all I felt was relief. Went on a single date with a 27-year-old when I was 17. Red alerts were blaring when he balked at the idea of ever meeting my friends. He said I was moving too fast when I mentioned I thought my friends would probably like him. Even dumbass 17-year-old me realized that was a really sus thing for him to be weird about. I know now he probably realized he wouldn't have as much luck convincing others he wasn't a creep as he did with me. Had some reasons why I thought my girl was talking to her ex years ago, trusted my gut and broke up with her. She ended up getting married and having kids with him. He ended up being the Southern church shooter here in Texas. https://n.wikipedia.org Wiki Sutherland Springshire shooting n.wikipedia.org Wiki Sutherland Springshire shooting. A little over 10 years ago, I started chatting with a woman online, and we eventually realized that we were very much into each other. She had talked a lot about us meeting in person, but it was never meant to be because we lived in different states and I didn't have the ability to travel that far, and I assumed she didn't either. It's all just as well, though, because I learned the hard way that the entire time we were talking and flirting with one another, she was actually married. I received a pretty nasty message from her husband threatening to track me down and kick my ass. That never happened, but that was the last day that I ever spoke to her. Leaving my wife after her meth use and leaving my daughters alone in a hotel while I was on the road working. He'll never forgive her for the drug use and the cheating on me in our own house. I was going to go skiing with my friends. I had rented the equipment ahead of time. Morning of, I had all my stuff on, skis in my hand, but I just didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go so fucking bad. So I bailed on my friends, something I almost never do, because I highly value doing things that you commit to. They got rear-ended pretty badly, totaled the back half of their car, and ended up on the highway for 6 hours. They were both okay. If I had been in the back, I probably would have been seriously hurt. Moving in with someone who said he didn't work in the winter because he was cold. My mom tried hooking me up with a girl of a family friend. She was alright, but we didn't really click too much. Her dad was also a career criminal that despised me. Fast forward a couple years and she moves to Florida with her family. One day she left the house with her stepdad to go to the store, and while they were gone her brother shot their younger brother and mom, and then blew his brains out. I can't help but think, what if? If I got serious with her, I could've been there potentially. Not my story, but I saw this on another Ask Reddit thread. There was a lady who had a horse ranch and she rented some land from the neighbor next door to do some trail riding or some such. One day she was going down the trail with one of her students and she got this really uneasy feeling, so she decided to turn around. Turns out the person she rented from was Todd Colehep, the serial killer, and he was burying someone's body with his excavating equipment. Her intuition was spot on. That is a massive nuclear warhead dodged. There was more to it than that, but that was the gist. Don't have the original link. My family left the Catholic Church, Archdiocese of Boston, in the early 90s when my brother and I were in elementary school. Once crossing the street, looked left and right, and then crossed the road. Suddenly I realized I didn't look to the left one more time, then looked, but luckily the road was clear. Was just out of uni during the 2008 financial crisis. Had difficulty finding a job. One company offered me a role as a trainee. Was getting bad vibes about the company and the management, so did some research, and it was basically an hard sell insurance company. Essentially a scam call center. They did not take the job rejection well. About a month later, I scored a very good contract with Telstra that led onto a very good perm role. We were trying to heave a huge box full of wood into an open trailer with 8 people. The side of the trailer had planks mounted horizontally with gaps in between. It got stuck with one side of the box leaning quite a bit up from the flooring, and it just needed a bit of a push on that side in order to have enough room to fall down, if that makes sense. I stuck my hand in between one of those planks right under the box to help pushing. One of the older guys just said, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Realizing I was an idiot, it was basically a finger guillotine. I snapped my hand back, and right after the box slammed down hard. The shock came right after it, because hadn't the guy said anything I would have lost 4 fingers for sure. The guy just patted me on the shoulder. This was 20 years ago, and I still cringe on the fact that I was an idiot for thinking it was a good idea. Now I'm an idiot with a full set of digits. I got into a fight at school when I was 16. The principal called the police on me, as she did whenever absolutely anything eventful happened. The cop sat me down. He pointed at my backpack and said, "Is that your bag?" I said, "Yes, sir." He replied, "If I were to open that up and go through it, would I find anything illegal?" I said, "No, sir." Then he didn't go through it. Little did he know I had a decent amount of coke and weed on me, plus some used foils. The weed was in multiple bags because I was selling it. Later I learned that cops can't search your stuff unless they have a real reason, so that was his way of trying to get into my bag. I didn't know that at the time. I just instinctively lied. I would got locked up for possession and intent to distribute, so I'm very glad I lied. Plus, he probably would've given me additional charges for the fight. Driving through the Rocky Mountains, I was in the right lane of a double-lane highway. A big ditch and a concrete barrier separated opposing sides. I was coming up to the crest of a hill, when suddenly a car going the wrong way in the left lane passed by me. Had I been in the left lane, it would have been a head-on crash with no time to react at all. I remember distinctly not realizing they were there until they had already passed me. How they got on the wrong side? Maybe an emergency turnaround. There was nowhere to turn from either way for a long ways, and there was convoys of semis all over the place, including one just a few hundred meters behind me. Don't ever pass those over the crest of a hill is the lesson I took from that day.